welcome to Finding Alara, a safe space where authors, artists and creatives share their world-building style and mindfulness tactics. Brought to you by Bushland Castle Productions, a micro-publisher with an author support platform that nurtures creative growth and storytelling excellence. Hello and welcome to Season 3, Episode 3, Part 2 of my interview with Cecelia de Gzell. Last episode we spoke about mindfulness, and this time our focus is on world building. It is the first time I'm revealing the second set of Fast Fire questions for Season 3, so I hope you like them. Someone mentioned I should give you an episode plan, so we have the intro, interview, Fast Fire questions, and then linking to Alara, followed by the end roll. In the interview, I do take her MC on an adventure, and I'm really proud of this one because she went on a pirate ship and it was pretty funny. I would like to point out that during this discussion, again, we broached some potentially triggering subjects due to her line of work as an oncologist. So if you think this may trigger you, please look after yourself and seek help if needed. I know that you are keen to hear from the star of the day, so here's my chat with Cecelia. Cecelia de Gzell is a debut author of the novel The Swell, which was released in June 2025. As a radiation oncologist who specialises in the treatment of patients with brain tumours, she's had 14 peer-reviewed medical publications and a PhD in glioblastoma research and is a regular presenter at the international and national conferences. A period of burnout in 2019 reignited an old passion for writing, and The Swell is her debut novel. She lives in Sydney with her husband and 3 children and a goofy sheepadoodle, Fudge, who keeps escaping. Both her work and family exhaust her but provide endless fodder for the imagination. Dr. de Gzell is aiming to release the second book in the series, Caught in the Undertow, in 2026. And we're back. So fantastic to see you again. It's been minutes. This time we're going to have a focus on world building. This is where you get a chance to tell me all about your book and what world building means to you.
Okay, so I guess when I first saw this question, I was like, oh, I'm not really building anything different. Because for me, it's kind of almost reality, right? Yes, I might be setting it in a fictional hospital, but I kind of know how a hospital works and what the layout's going to be and how people interact with each other in that environment. So it wasn't a huge leap to set The Swell in that kind of environment. And also, she lives in the inner west, Newtown, Camperdown. I lived there for about 10-11 years, so again that felt natural for that younger age for me. But I did go back and took a lot of photos. I went there and spent a bit of time there at different times of the day to see how much it had changed compared to when I used to live in that area. And probably the sort of third venue or venues that come up in the book, as I mentioned before, is the beaches. So Poppy learns to swell, and so I went back out to Bronte Beach and we took photos and we spent a bit of time there, and again sort of thinking about the different beaches in Sydney and what makes them different. They all do have slightly different characters, the beaches in Sydney, in terms of the people that go there and the cafes and things that might be around. So getting time to go back to those locations, which also took me back to a younger period of time, was quite fun to do that. I took my kids with me on a couple of these sort of outings and it was fun to show them.
Research trips.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it was fun to take the kids out there because they don't remember that period of time, and one of them wasn't even born back then. So, that was kind of nice. But I don't feel like I created anything new. So it's not like fantasy or sci-fi or things like that where you're actually creating something completely new or completely original. This kind of felt like working on a frame that's pretty close to reality.
Having the contemporary framework is a really good start, but there would be elements that you're adding within your story that you're making up for the story purposes.
Yeah,
So I think that's where world building really fits into contemporary
Yeah.
novels.
And then I guess probably from the character perspective more than the sort of physical structures, creating individual characters and nuances for those characters, I think for me was the bigger part of the world building. And sometimes I would start with one particular characteristic of someone I'd know and go, oh, I wonder if I could start there and then create someone using that one characteristic or a certain anecdote that I could then twist into a whole different person. And some were just completely made up for the purposes of knowing what was missing in the group of characters that I had and how to balance that out. So that was the part for me, I think, that was the world building, was the individual characters, maybe more so than the contemporary framework, as you say.
Did you have anyone from your real world that you think just slotted right into your story?
Most of them, as I say, they don't really fit with true people, and I really wanted to make sure I didn't take a person that I actually know in real life and just put them in the story. For obvious reasons, I didn't think that would be a good idea. But as I say, I like Poppy, for example. Poppy's not like my character. I have two friends who are really, really optimistic, cheerful, happy people, and I would characterize myself as not being that optimistic or happy. And so I wanted the main character to have that kind of baseline of being this maybe a little bit naive, obviously lacking in world experience, but a happy person, comfortable in groups, likes meeting new people. And I would say that that's something that I feel more anxious about, whereas she would like that kind of environment. So I would use bits and pieces to create some of the characters. There's probably one character in the book that's close-ish resemblance to someone I used to know a long time ago, but everyone else is maybe just picking out one thing and then creating a new person with that one particular characteristic.
Trying to make them wholesome characters.
Yeah. And look, the other thing with a series is obviously in a standalone book, it's really hard to make every character fully fleshed out because they might only have a small impact in the story. The beauty of having these characters over a series is that I get to give a little bit more of them in subsequent books, and I already had ideas about certain things for some of those characters for future books, but it's really lovely now to be able to write some of those in, and it'll be very interesting to see how the readership will react to some of those extra bits once they get to the subsequent books.
Something to look forward to. So tell us about this book, The Swell.
So The Swell is set in a big, busy Sydney hospital called the Bennelong, and Poppy is starting as a medical intern in the emergency department, and it's pretty chaotic and pretty stressful for her, especially to start out in that environment as the first term as a doctor. And she comes along with her two best friends from university, so Gemma and Lucas, and they all flat share together in Newtown, and so they're also exploring their new neighbourhood and having fun being young and going out in a carefree manner in the inner west in Sydney. She meets a couple of love interests in this book, and there's a bit of backwards and forwards, to and fro throughout the book as to maybe which one is the better option for her. And there's also some backstory that we learn about Poppy's past, and really it's time for her to confront that particular issue from her past and maybe try to work through it. And if she doesn't do that, really she's going to be quite held back by it, particularly in terms of her love life. So there's a lot of opportunities for her to maybe grow and start to move forward from something that's been plaguing her for a while.
Interesting. How old is she?
23.
23. So this is the first year of
Her internship, yeah.
Okay. Internship, then residency. Yeah?
Correct, yeah, absolutely. Okay. It's just funny terminology. Medicine has lots of its own unique terminologies. It's a bit silly, but yes, in Australia you're an intern first and then you're a resident.
Did you use a lot of that terminology in the books?
I did, but in the very beginning there is actually a list of that hierarchy so that people can go back to that if they forget. So intern, resident, registrar, senior registrar, fellow, consultant.
And you're a doctor?
That's correct.
That's above consultant?
No, I'm a consultant essentially. I'm a specialist. So once you're a doctor the whole way through. So once you finish medical school, you are a doctor.
Oh, okay.
I have a PhD as well, so I kind of have two different types of that terminology. But you're a doctor all the way through, but once you're at the end of your specialty training and you've got your specialty specialty qualifications, you're what's called a consultant.
Interesting.
I'm going to freak you out though. In Victoria particularly, it's not really a common practice in New South Wales, but in Victoria, if you're a specialist surgeon, they like to be called Mr. instead of Doctor.
Fascinating.
It's a bit of snob value.
I wonder what that's like in WA, if there's any differences.
I don't think so. I think they like Doctor there too, but it seems fairly unique to Victoria.
Yeah.
I think it comes from the English system. So I think in the UK, if you're a surgeon specialist, they like to be called Mr. It's supposed to be deferential.
That's fascinating, because you spend all those years to become a doctor to be a Mr.
I know, it seems weird to me. And what about if you're a woman? You're Mrs.? Miss?
Ms. probably.
But you're not married. Yeah.
Or what if you are married and it is Ms?
It's an odd. Yeah, I don't know.
Strange. Anyway, we get to play now. Are you ready for a game?
Okay.
Okay, so this is an audio only podcast. We're not showing any video.
Okay.
So our listeners have no idea what your office looks like, what you look like, or the surroundings of your particular area. So we like to play a little game where someone is knocking on your door. So in a minute, you're going to hear a knocking sound and you've got to go walk to the door. Imaginary. Obviously, you're wearing headphones with a cord here, so you can't get up. But you need to go answer that door, and it's going to be Poppy, your main character from your story.
Okay.
I want you to hold a little bit of a dialogue with Poppy, and I want her to explain your office space. Now, this is where it's up to you. She can, well, the whole thing's up to you, but she can know that you're her creator, or she can just know you as a friend that she's come to visit. It's up to you how you set the scene.
Do I do both voices?
Yep.
Okay, wow.
So give yourself a minute. There's no rush. Alrighty? You ready?
Yep. Hi, Poppy. Come on in. I've been looking forward to meeting you. I've heard a lot about you from one of my colleagues in the emergency department. Do you know Harriet Pierce? Oh, yes, I do. I do know Harriet. Well, she's a really good friend of mine, and she's told me a lot about your experience in emergency, and we have been looking forward to welcoming you into the radiation oncology department. Well, I'm really excited to be here. I haven't done any oncology terms yet, so I'm really looking forward to what I might experience on the ward. I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about the wards and what you might expect from me. Well, so you'll find that there's a number of consultants in radiation oncology, and we spend a bit of time on the wards, but most of the work that we do is actually in the outpatient clinic, where we see patients coming in either before treatment or after treatment and checking up on them. And we also go to a number of meetings where we might interact with our medical oncology colleagues and the radiologists and the surgeons and the pathologists and talk about new cases that are coming up. Have you been to any MDTs before? No, we don't have any MDTs in the emergency department. Okay, well that's all right. We've probably got one coming up later this week, and we can go together and I can explain who everybody is and you can see the structure and what it might be like. But today we're going to start with a ward round, and we're going to go and see all the inpatients on the ward at the moment. So maybe you can come with us and we can go and grab one of the mobile workstations and start at the beginning of the ward and go through and see all of our patients.
That was really well done. It sounded like a conversation you've had 100 times before.
Well, I don't know. It's a little bit of an odd one, but anyway, it's hard to be two people at once.
I like it how you tried to do a different voice for her at the start. I could tell you pitched it
and
up
then
a bit.
I gave up. And that was just too much complexity when I was thinking on my feet.
It was well done. Congratulations. You pass.
Good. That's a good start. It probably sounded very boring for the people listening at home.
Oh, I think they would think the same as me, as in it sounded completely natural, like a conversation you would literally have on the ward. So yeah, it was really good. Okay, so we like to also take your character, Poppy, and we're going to take her into a bunch of different scenarios. So the game continues. We were talking about supernatural a little bit earlier.
Oh, yes.
So you know the episode where Dean is turned into his 13-year-old self? Do you remember that episode?
God, no, that's taking me too far back. I'm not sure.
It's like season 8, I think.
I was a Dean fan, though. I am just saying. I was totally Team Dean.
And as you should be. Okay, so that's a bit abstract for you. How about, you said you've watched Buffy a few times.
Yes.
So, you know the episode where Buffy is walking, I think it's season 1 or 2, and there's a kid, he's sleeping, he's in a coma, and then the world just keeps going crazy around them?
Vaguely, yep.
Like, Willow has to go into a stage and sing, and she's never never done that before, but she has to follow through, like that sort of scenario. So it's like, you know, it's a dream sequence, but there's nothing you can do about it. You have to follow through.
Yeah, okay.
So that's sort of what's happening with Poppy right now.
Right.
So she's going from the hospital. She's finished her shift. She's had enough for the day. She's going to be walking home. Mm-hmm. But instead of walking out of the hospital through the sliding doors, she walks straight into a bar. And it's a bar that happens to be on a pirate ship.
On a pirate ship, okay.
You know it's on a pirate ship because there are particular characters sitting around the bar. One has a parrot on his shoulder. She is struggling to maintain her balance because she wasn't expecting to be on a ship after leaving work.
Yep.
And she's probably done like a stupid hour-long day being an intern.
Yep.
So she's wobbling and trying to get her balance, and there's a person next to her that catches her to help her steady in the environment. She looks up at that person. There's an instant attraction. So forget...
How's his breath?
We don't judge here on this fake pirate ship.
Okay.
She looks...
He's got good breath. He's got reasonable hygiene.
Nice teeth.
Okay, good.
And she just locks eyes with him. It's just an instant attraction.
Yep.
How do you think she would react to that?
I think she might lean into that arm that's holding her up there, and you know, she might be interested in how strong the muscles are in the biceps that keeping her supported. And I think that she'd be very keen to find out this young pirate's name.
So what does she say?
And
does she say, what is your name? Or who are you?
I think she'd actually say thank you for giving me a hand. And
then he would say, you're welcome. Would you like a drink?
And I think she'd say yes. I think she'd be pretty attracted to this spunky pirate with good hygiene and great teeth, and clearly doesn't live on the pirate ship all the time because has washed himself and is looking quite attractive. Definitely not your Johnny Depp, Pirates of the Caribbean, gross teeth.
More like the Orlando Bloom.
Yeah, he's definitely, I mean, maybe not him so much, but he certainly looks cleaner than Johnny Depp ever did in those movies. So I think, yes, I think she might be very interested in the drink, but I'm not sure how she'd go with the spiced rum that might be on offer, but probably still be preferable to some disgusting form of, you know, draft beer or Guinness or whatever, stout maybe. They might have stout on this pirate ship, I'm not sure. I think the spiced rum might be the better option.
So he gestures next to himself and says, look, have a seat. So she manages to get up onto the stool in front of the bar. She sits down, she puts her hands in front of her, and she's looking at the array of liqueurs that they have.
Better than spiced rum.
Turns out the scene has changed.
Oh.
She's now in a ballroom. There's a dance going on behind her. The liqueurs are much more shinier.
Great.
The gentleman that helped her sit down is now dressed in a suit.
Oh, even better.
And he's very dashing.
Sounds great.
Very dashing sort of guy. She gets a choice of cocktails. What cocktail would she like?
Oh, I think she'd like something fruity. So maybe a French martini or a pina colada, something like that.
Okay, so she orders up her drink.
Especially after a long day. She definitely doesn't want an espresso martini because that would keep her up too long. Want something that's going to make her feel cheerful.
Well, I don't know. If I was swept into a random ship and then onto a ballroom, I'd probably want something to stay awake or wake myself up.
Maybe she'll go and have a Red Bull in the bathroom afterwards, who knows?
So she gets her drink, she's sipping and having a nice, just inane conversation with this dashing young man. He invites her to dance. She happens to have automatically switched into a beautiful gown, like magic.
Fantastic.
I like it when magic happens.
Yeah, and she's clean because she's automatically had a wash that didn't exist after her sweaty scrubs and her long shift. Yep.
Her hair's done beautifully as well.
I'm with you.
Of course.
Perfect.
Yep.
Makeup.
Whole 9 yards. So he asks her to dance. And what does she say?
She says, I would love to dance.
Okay, so he takes her hand. They get off the chairs and walk onto the dance floor. You can hear the music start to swell. I thought you'd like the use of that word.
Oh, I do like, yes,
Music
well done.
starts to swell and they're standing quite close to each other. Nothing dramatic with the dance moves or anything, just a bit of a sway from side to side.
Sure.
And halfway through the song, you can hear a clatter. Something's trying to break into the imaginary ballroom that you're dancing in.
Right, okay.
They both turn around and see that the exit door is shattering and a dragon, a big 30-foot red fire-breathing dragon has just burst into the dance floor.
Right.
How would she react?
I think she'd be pretty shocked to start with, but, I think Poppy is becoming quite good under a crisis, and maybe she and her dancing partner might look for a potential weapon or something that they could do to shield themselves. Maybe she would grab a nearby table, maybe they'd grab it together, and they could use that to try and push the dragon away and help people escape. So I think she and her newfound dance partner / paramour might go into warrior mode to try and help people around them.
That's a really good reaction.
Well, I think, she's working in emergency. She's used to strange things coming in the door. You never know what's going to be next cab off the rank or next patient through those doors, and you've got to think fast and react on your feet. But I think it's also important in medicine, in life, in everything, is you're better off when you've got a team rather than just on your own, especially if you're fighting a fire-breathing red dragon.
Yes, because they're always coming into the emergency room.
Well, yeah, you could do. Never know. Might have transformed to Harry Potter. What was the red one in Harry Potter? Horntail?
I can't remember, actually.
Something like that.
I'm going to have to Google that later. Yeah. So she is hiding behind the table with this guy.
Yep.
And they're trying to get to the exit door.
Yep.
Because this is a 30-foot dragon. They obviously can't ram it with the table.
Yeah, true, good point. But they could all try and, bit like the wheel that's turning and they keep going behind it.
They get out the door and then all of a sudden she's back at the exit to the hospital where she starts.
Is it the next day and she's back on her shift? Because that's depressing.
It's just the end of the scenario.
Okay.
I think she handled it incredibly well, though.
Oh, that's good.
One of my favourite characters so far to play with.
Oh, good.
So what I'm aiming for in that is I want a romantic element, I want a fear-based element, I want a fantasy element, and I normally like to chuck in a sci-fi, but I chucked in pirate instead this time.
Yeah, the pirate was pretty funny. It's not something you encounter on a regular basis. I mean, surely, the fire-breathing dragon isn't either, but, we can all kind of probably picture that a bit better with the rise of all the fantasy novels than maybe the pirate. I don't think I've read any pirate-based fantasy novels, but I'm sure they exist.
Oh, there are hundreds.
Are there? Oh, there you go. It's a whole new section I've never even come across.
So while you're building your world, I know it's very contemporaneous. So when you're developing different areas of your world, do you give time frames for certain aspects, especially because you have such a crunch on your time commitments?
I've never really thought about it that way. I must admit, I haven't broken it down by time, or I really just, for me, I more plot out certain things that I want to reach in the storyline. So I'm not a complete architect, so I don't literally summarize every single scene in every chapter and then write it. I kind of have a starting point, certain things in the middle, and an ending point, and I'm trying to reach all of those. So sometimes I will sit and think about where the story is up to and where I know I want it to get to and how I might do that. And sometimes that will be just a time-based thing where I'm sitting and trying to work out what different ways could I develop the storyline between those 2 points. But I've never thought about actually sitting down and time limiting myself for doing a scene or a character development or thinking about the plot or something in the storyline like that. I must admit, I think just because I have my very small window to get things done, if it's a writing day, it will literally be I open it up, I look at where I've stopped, I might go back and reread a bit before that just to refresh myself and then start writing. If it's an editing day, I'll again have highlighted where I last finished the editing, I'll have written the page number down, I'll go back to that page and start from there and go as far as I can before I've run out of my time for that particular day.
You must have to be very concise with what you're doing with your time.
And I've learnt that in my work job as well. I think that's certainly a skill that I have, is time efficiency. Because I'm part-time in my work and medicine's not really well set up for part-time work, I just don't have leeway. I've only got a certain number of hours to do the work, and people who are full-time have a little bit more leeway because they're not fully booked out. My clinics will be booked out from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, and I still have to do work that's not just seeing patients. I'll have to volume plans, approve plans, answer a bunch of emails, do a bunch of other things that I don't have any time in the day for, but I just have to do it. it. So I think time efficiency is key, and just if there's a certain number of things you've got to get done in a period of time, you just got to do it.
And what do you think the biggest lessons you've learnt while creating your world?
Oh, I think one of the biggest lessons, and probably the trickiest, is getting the first chapter right. I think in general we have really quite poor attention spans now compared to what we used to have 10, 20, 30, 50 years ago. If you go back and read classic novels, even novels from not that long ago, maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, there's a lot more exposition, there's a lot more slow background into a story. Whereas today we are so busy, and with social media influencing that doom scrolling, etc., you've got to grab a reader quickly. It's the same for TV shows as it is for books. If you don't grab your viewer in the first episode, they're not going to watch the second episode. They're going to be sitting there scrolling on their phone and do something else. So I think getting the first chapter right is really hard. I definitely had to change it for The Swell. After the big developmental edit before publication, one of the first things she said was get rid of the first 3 chapters. Start in the action in about chapter 3, chapter 4. Drip feed the background and the characters over subsequent chapters, but they want to start in the storyline. You've got to find a way to make your readers care about the character, otherwise they're not going to keep reading. And so that was a challenge, and who knows if I got it completely right or not, I don't know, but certainly that has probably changed the way I have written subsequently. And also more dialogue, less description, more dialogue between the characters keeps the pace up a bit quicker. You find out little bits of information without having to describe it because it comes through in the dialogue. So that's probably the 2 big things that I've learnt through the process of the last 6 years. There's many more things for me to continue to learn. A bit like medicine, I think it is ongoing education, self-education, in the sense that we are always learning from each other, learning when we read books how other authors do things, learning when we go to meetings, learning when we network, learning when we watch other people's social media, and we're always learning. Humans are incredibly adaptable, and we can always keep trying to improve or find things that will work better for us through experience of others. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can certainly ask for advice or just pick things up from the way we watch other people do things. So I look forward to learning more about my craft over the future, and I'm hopeful that one day I could do more writing, and I think that would be great.
Ongoing learning and development. It's a good mindset to have, a growth mindset.
Yeah, well, I think we all do in life, whether we think we're doing it or not. We pick things up all the time, even from our children. I'm now learning from my children is also fun, getting into an age where they teach you things, go, oh, I didn't know that. Great, something new.
We're just going to pause to hear a word from our sponsors. Being a creative can be a lonely path, but it doesn't have to be. Bushland Pages is a free community where creatives gather to share ideas, build projects, and support each other along the way. Whichever path you have chosen, you'll find a fellow creative sharing ideas and encouraging your every step. We are currently celebrating Motivated Mindset March, where 5 minutes a day is all it takes to try something new that may calm your mind and settle your senses. At Bushland Castle Productions, we believe something simple. Every creative deserves an environment that encourages growth, and our castle gates are open. Join Bushland Pages today on bushlandcastleproductions.com. And we're back. So we've decided to go for more of a pirate theme with our keyword for the treasure chest. We went with flint. So
Flint.
what are you looking at adding to our treasure chest?
So I'd be very delighted to offer a tote bag with the book cover on the front, so the cover of The Swell on the front. And I think we also mentioned throwing in a bookmark and a magnet.
That would be totally awesome.
Oh, you kill yourself.
I do. And Bushland Castle Productions is going to purchase one of the books. We're hoping we can talk you into signing it.
Oh, I would love to do that.
Oh, fantastic.
Absolutely love to do that.
So we'll get that organised, and just remember the keyword is flint, and to say Cecelia is your favourite guest for this season.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now we're moving on to our fast fire questions. Again, first time I'm using these ones. You ready?
Oh, so it's different from the last. This is
Well, that was
all
the
new
mindfulness
fast fire.
ones. These are the
Okay.
world building ones.
Oh, okay. I don't know how well I did on the last lot, so who knows? Could be terrible.
Is your fictional world photogenic?
Yes, definitely. Think young adults, great bodies, at times at the beach, in swimwear, definitely photogenic.
Do you wear socks with Ugg boots?
No, I do not.
Oh, thank goodness.
I would be sweating if I did that.
I add up all the votes at the end of the 15 guests, and I'm really, really hoping I have a predominant no socks with Ugg boots by the end.
It's a bit like socks and sandals.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
I don't do that either.
Would you rather fight a bear-sized chicken or 10 chicken-sized bears?
10 chicken-sized bears.
Would you rather immortality and no magic or magic at the cost of your lifespan?
Magic at the cost of my lifespan.
You didn't even hesitate there.
No, I don't want to live forever. No, thank you.
Would you read your own book for pleasure?
Yes.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I think of how many times I've read it. I've already read it a lot. Process of editing. So yes, there's emotion there, and I think the thing that I really enjoy about books that I read is when I can connect enough with the story and the characters that I have those emotions. So if I can cry in a book and laugh in a book and feel that excitement of romance or love, then I'm hooked on that. So I have felt that with my own book, but obviously I'm not a biased judge. But when readers have connected with me and said they felt that too, then that's just the best compliment ever.
Now we're moving on to our linking to Alara segment.
People and characters inspire me. So when I see people who are generous even at the cost to themselves, I find that incredibly inspiring. So someone who gives up their time or whatever specific aspect it is, but gives up something to help someone else, I think is very inspiring, and I'm always thinking I want to be more like that.
Nice. This one's from Gary. How many books are they planning in the series, and what inspired them into their field of doctoring?
Okay, so somewhere between 6 and 8, I think, in this particular series. And what inspired me into radiation oncology and particularly brain? That's a really good question. Actually, when I was a medical student and, the first year or so as a junior doctor, I thought I might do medical oncology, not radiation oncology. And I'd certainly done a lot more of that as a student and a younger doctor. But then in my first year, we had a careers talk. So we had a number of specialists come and talk to us as interns and residents and talk about their fields. And the radiation oncologist who came to talk actually really inspired me, actually. I liked how she talked about the specialty and the fact that because we do this visual aspect with the radiation planning and we get to look at scans and decide where we're going to treat or where we're going to give the radiation dose, I really liked that visual side of things. And so I then chose to do a radiation oncology term as an intern and a resident, and I really, really liked it. I found that having that balance between direct patient contact and in clinics, but also having this time to do something that was a bit different and not quite procedural, but almost procedural, I really liked that balance. So that's what brought me to radiation oncology. And then for brain tumours specifically, when I was about halfway through my specialty training, I was thinking about maybe what subspecialty I might like. And at that particular time, there was new technology. The stereotactic radiosurgery was only really just starting out in Australia. Not many people were doing it, but I could see that the technology had a lot of potential to improve and become a lot more widespread, but it was also technically interesting. And I also knew it wasn't a very popular field because patients didn't always do very well, so people didn't really like it because it is emotionally quite taxing. And so I thought there might be potential for job opportunities. So it was the combination of having an area where there was opportunity for technological advance and an interesting area, but also maybe it might lead to a job. So that was kind of how I sort of fell into that.
You always want to make sure there's a job at the end.
It's pretty important.
This next question is from Izzy. Have you drawn inspiration from real cases, and how medically accurate is the story?
So occasionally, yes. So some of the anecdotes in the books are from things that I've experienced or things that my colleagues have experienced and we've talked about. And I've tried to keep the medicine as accurate as possible, but obviously any mistakes are my own. And, I will say there's at least one particular scene in the first book that I've used as a reading from time to time. It's the scene of Poppy's first certification of a DOA patient, so dead on arrival, in the emergency department, and that was exactly my first case, and it was pretty confronting. But the difference is that in Poppy's case, because I got to play with how things happened after that, I was able to build in some really nice camaraderie between the staff in an ED and them all supporting Poppy, going up to the pub after the shift and all talking about their own traumatic experiences. So I felt that that was a really nice way to actually balance out what was a really confronting experience, both for Poppy and in real life for myself.
So it's the way you wish it would have happened for you?
Well, the way it could have gone in a different situation. Maybe it had gone differently. In my own situation, if you eventually read the book, you'll know the scene that I'm talking about. I went back in, didn't tell anybody, got straight back into the job because that was the expectation. But growth is good, and I reckon there's a role these days to make it a much more supportive environment.
Interesting. So this question is from me. Do you think when writing medical dramas you need to fib a little to amp up the drama if a medical procedure is considered boring?
That's a great question, and I did a manuscript assessment in one of the earlier drafts of book one, and the lady who did the developmental edit at that point said, look, don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. And she thought I had too many medical scenes in, and she wanted me to cut them down and put more of the human emotional side into it rather than some of the just direct, this is what she did, this is how she managed the patient. And definitely that made the story much more compelling and more interesting to see both sides. But I guess when I first set out to write the book, I did want it to be a little bit like the boring repetition that is any job. So a lot of what doctors do and what nursing staff do and paramedics do and healthcare workers in general, allied healthcare workers, is repetition. Like anything in life, you will see a lot of the same things, you do a lot of the same things, so it does become quite
monotonous?
Yeah, at times, and especially as a junior doctor on the wards, maybe more so than in emergency, but on the wards, junior doctors, they often do pretty boring menial things. They document ward rounds, they chart medications, they maybe take bloods or put in cannulas, but they're not doing really interesting or mentally taxing things a lot of the time. So a lot of what they do is boring, and I did want to bring that out, but at the end of the day, if we want it to be something that's going to engage readers and want them to continue to read, I had to maybe focus on some of the more sensationalist aspects rather than always the nitty-gritty of the day in, day out stuff that we do.
Fair call. If you were writing a story about a laundress, you wouldn't want to show them washing laundry on repeat.
Yeah, maybe not over and over again. Maybe once might be enough. That's right.
Well, that has been such a fun conversation. Thank you so much for your time today.
Oh no, thank you very much for having me. It's been a great experience and I really appreciate it.
And I look forward to being in touch with whoever wins your amazing tote bag.
Yes, very exciting.
Totally cool.
I hope they like it.
If you'd like to carry on the conversation with Cecelia, then she has her own website, cedgazellauthor.com, has her own Facebook and Instagram. All the links are in the show notes. Cecelia's second book, Caught in the Undertow, is out now. It went live on the 10th of March 2026. So if you like what you heard on the interview, there are actually 2 books ready to go. Treasure chest update. We have one totally awesome tote bag with a bookmark, magnet and a signed copy of The Swell, Cecelia's first book. And we have one Season 3 Finding Alara coffee cup. So that is 2 down and 28 to go. This is going to be a big list by the end of the season, so make sure you get your name in the draw. Next episode, I'm going to share my interview with Lexi DeLorme. Thank you for listening to the show. I really appreciate the support. If you'd like to get in touch with myself or the team at Bushland Castle Productions, then all of the links are in the show notes, or you can check out the website bushlandcastleproductions.com. If you would like to know more about the show, its guests, and receive exclusive content, then consider joining the Shadow Lair. Head on over to ko-fi.com/findingalara. That's ko-fi.com/Finding Alara, where $5 a month will take you behind the scenes. If you enjoyed listening to Finding Alara, have any questions, or just want to share your world with us, then please get in touch. Until next time, keep up the search for your Alara.